Welcome back to your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit. While headlines scream about Ukraine, Gaza, and Taiwan, Russia has been quietly forging a new front line far from the usual battle maps in the Arctic. What was once dismissed as frozen wasteland is now Moscow's newest power lever, a mix of nuclear icebreakers, fortified ports, radar networks, and vast mineral reserves. Add China's Polar Silk Road money, NATO's sluggish moves, and suddenly the Arctic isn't an afterthought. It's the cold edge of tomorrow's geopolitics. Let's fire up the engines and break this down. From ice to influence, Russia's Arctic build-out. Russia's Arctic dominance wasn't born overnight. It's been decades in motion, but the past 5 years turned blueprints into hard steel. While global focus stayed on Ukraine and the Middle East, Moscow quietly fortified the Northern Sea Route, NSR. By 2025, Putin declared the final phase of Arctic transformation, signaling Russia had done what the West hadn't even begun. The numbers tell the story. Over 50 icebreakers, led by the nuclear-powered Project 22220 fleet, give Russia unmatched reach. Ports from Murmansk to Pevek now serve as militarized outposts, linked by radar, undersea sensors, and air defense systems forming a 24,000-kilometer shield. This isn't just infrastructure, it's national identity. The Arctic delivers 7.5% of GDP, 11% of exports, and could bring $160 billion in tax revenue by 2035. Shipping is surging too, nearly 38 million tons in 2024, with Rosatom expecting foreign voyages to jump 50% this year as companies eye faster, cheaper alternatives to Suez. But Russia's Arctic build-out isn't just about strength on ice. It's also about leverage over global trade. That brings us straight to the Northern Sea Route. The Northern Sea Route. Commerce meets control. The Northern Sea Route, or NSR, isn't just a line on the map. It's a shortcut that slices up to 40% off the journey between Europe and Asia. What takes 35 days through Suez can be cut to about 20 via the Arctic, a massive advantage for shippers chasing speed and lower fuel costs. But the NSR is no free highway. Moscow regulates every vessel with permits, ice-class rules, and mandatory Russian icebreaker escorts. Costs rise, but so do rewards. Russian carriers like Sovcomflot enjoy the inside lane, while foreign operators navigate fees and red tape. Cargo traffic exploded from 4 million tons in 2014 to nearly 38 million in 2024, with targets of 150 million by 2030. Rosatom Cargo is already planning Arctic container shipping and new hubs in Murmansk and Vladivostok, with trials eyed for 2026. Still, hurdles persist. Seasonal ice, high insurance, and Western sanctions limiting carriers. Yet for Russia, the NSR is more than commerce, it's leverage. In peacetime, it fuels trade. In crisis, it becomes a bargaining chip. Before we delve deeper, do us a favor. Smash that like and subscribe button. It helps us bring more updates to auto and policy enthusiasts like you. And speaking of leverage, Russia isn't steering this alone. Let's shift gears and see how China is powering the Arctic axis. Beijing's Polar Silk Road, fueling the Arctic axis. If Russia brings geography, China brings money and ambition. Once mocked for calling itself a near-Arctic state, Beijing has turned the label into reality. Through its Polar Silk Road, China is embedding itself in Arctic trade, not with warships but with infrastructure, financing, and logistics Moscow can't fund alone. COSCO has already tested Arctic voyages, and even with sanctions slowing activity, Beijing continues to invest. From research bases and fiber optic cables to dual-use ports, these projects are less about science and more about securing long-term influence under China's global Belt and Road banner. The benefits are mutual. Russia gains capital, tech, and political cover against sanctions. China gains diversification, sidestepping choke points like Malacca and Suez. In today's era, where supply chains act as geopolitical weapons, that shorter Eurasian corridor is priceless. Recent deals deepen the alliance, Chinese firms stepping into Arctic LNG projects, financing new vessels, and even drawing India into polar training. Moscow controls the route, Beijing fuels its growth. Together, they're shaping an Arctic future the West can only debate. But while Russia and China tightened their grip, NATO's hesitation has been the West's biggest liability. NATO's frozen blind spot, the cost of delay. For years, Western capitals treated the Arctic as little more than a zone for climate talks and drills, not a strategic battleground. That complacency cost them. While Russia built permanent bases, fortified ports, and a regulatory grip on the northern sea route, NATO settled for rotating troops and temporary exercises. No unified doctrine, no lasting infrastructure. By 2024, the alarm bells rang, but Moscow's foundations were already in place. Russian and Chinese vessels moved freely while Western ships faced red tape. The Arctic Council, once a forum for cooperation, froze under geopolitical tension. The hesitation wasn't just military, it was economic. Shippers quietly tested Arctic lanes, insurers recalculated premiums, and European ports braced for polar leakage as traffic threatened to bypass Suez. The market adjusted faster than governments. And if that wasn't enough, Moscow's grip on resources beneath the ice adds another layer of dominance. The Arctic chessboard, resources, routes, and Russia's shadow hand. The Arctic isn't just frozen seas, it's a vault of resources. Estimates suggest 90 billion barrels of oil, 1,670 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, plus nickel and rare earths vital for steel and green tech. Whoever controls access wields leverage far beyond the ice. Russia's play is simple. Every ship through the NSR pays fees, escorts, or carriers that feed both infrastructure and the Kremlin's war chest. But control isn't only financial, it's political. Moscow can delay shipments, reward allies, or squeeze adversaries. During energy crises, it could choke LNG flows to Europe while fast-tracking cargo for China or India. Then comes the shadow fleet, reflagged, loosely insured tankers moving sanctioned oil and LNG beyond regulators' reach. Backed by nuclear icebreakers, this fleet makes Russia's Arctic logistics nearly untouchable. Unlike tanks or missiles, this dominance is invisible yet potent. With each port, icebreaker, and mineral contract, Moscow tightens its grip. Climate change only widens the board, giving Russia and China more squares to command while the West plays catch-up. And so we arrive at the bigger question. What does this Arctic shift mean for the balance of global power? Closing thoughts. The ice has shifted. An Arctic verdict. This wasn't random drift, it was deliberate strategy. Russia built steel and sovereignty where the West built PowerPoints. China embedded capital, infrastructure, and long-term influence where others saw only frozen seas. Together, they've transformed the Arctic into a geopolitical lever. Meanwhile, NATO hesitated, and hesitation has consequences. The map is already redrawn. The northern sea route isn't a dream for the future, it's a reality of the present, one where Moscow and Beijing hold the keys. The bigger question now is simple but chilling. Can the West adapt fast enough, or has the Arctic already slipped permanently into a Russian-Chinese grip? Because power today doesn't always shift with missiles. It shifts with icebreakers, contracts, and shipping lanes. And the ice, my friends, is already moving. Before we wrap up, let's hear from you. Do you think NATO can realistically close the Arctic gap, or is it too late? Will Russia's resource strategy pay off long-term, or could sanctions eventually bite harder than expected? And how much influence do you think China's Polar Silk Road investments will have in reshaping global trade routes? Drop your thoughts below. We'd love to see your takes. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to Piston Pundit, your ultimate pit stop for global vehicle updates, industry insights, and the geopolitics steering the road ahead. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's plenty more to explore.